All right, so today's topic is really, really cool because we, for many, many years, have built a way of personalizing member engagement utilizing email. And about a year and a half or so ago, give or take, we added in SMS capability. So for a long time, it's been primarily email as the mechanism to engage your members. As of Q4 of last year, we did a beta test with a handful of clients, some of whom are here today, and we launched a website engagement. It's live and ready to go. It is an add-on to your existing contract, but the mere fact that you're here and the response we've been seeing about this, it tells me that it kind of hitting the nail on the head in terms of yet another way to engage your members. So now I think about PropFuel as a personalization platform designed to ask questions, capture insight, and trigger automated actions in a way to create a more personalized experience for your members. And so today is the next iteration of that. I'm going to pass the floor over to my partner, Cameron Abishan, who's going to take us through a little bit of an introduction. Ryan then is going to walk us through, and Ashley, I think, is also going to participate in walking us through some examples from our beta tests. And by all means, I can't wait to hear what questions you have, what intrigues you, what you're excited about, and what you're hesitant about. So with that, Cam, the floor is all yours.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Like Dave said, Ryan's going to do an actual demo of the product so you can see it in action. But I want to just talk for a couple minutes of kind of why we're doing this, where the idea came from, why we think it's useful, why we think it'll help you solve some problems that that you have with engagement. And basically, when we started thinking about this as a concept. Um, what we really believe in is the power of being able to ask a question. That's like the piece of the toolbox that's been missing for associations. Everybody has the ability to send out information. We all do that, hundreds of thousands of times a month. If you look at your emails, your email volume, we're all used to being able to communicate out to people, but PropFuel is one of the first tools where we've given you guys the ability to get stuff back from your members and then service them based on their responses as opposed to just what you've been pushing out. They're both, important parts of the toolbox. PropFuel certainly doesn't replace your email marketing campaigns. It augments them and it gives you a different way to engage in a more personal way. Some of the challenges with email is it always relies on you sending something out, and kind of you're trying to segment and capture people when it matters to them, like when it's most relevant to them. But it's still fundamentally like you're pushing something out. You're either waiting for something to happen or you're scheduling it, you're pushing it out. Um, and what we saw the opportunity for was every association has a website. You have traffic going to that website, but again, it's a very it's generally a pretty static experience. So you're counting on people going to your website, kind of finding their way around. Maybe you can pick up on some signals based on traffic patterns or who logs in where. You certainly get like your transactional data, but you don't have that same the two-way interaction ability that we created for you over email doesn't really exist on the website. So that's what we set out to build, and that's what we have built is that ability for you guys to take the same concept, which is asking questions, and then based on what questions are asked and answered, doing something specific to that person in that moment, but doing it on your website. So you're going to where they are at. They're already at your website. They're doing something on your website. Based on what they're doing, let's pop up a question or insert a question on the page and then give you that same ability to drive specific actions based on the individual responses. Um, so like Dave said, we've created this over like the last we probably started working on this 5 or 6 months ago. We had conversations with a handful of clients going into building it. We signed a handful of clients for beta usage of it. We've run a few live campaigns. We've gotten a ton of great feedback, and that's helped us shape the product. And it's very flexible in terms of what you can do with it. And Ryan will show you the different options there, but you can target different types of people on different pages based on what they're doing, based on what they have done. Um, but it's not an entirely new concept. So I think it'll be easy for you guys to get started in that you're still running campaigns, you're still asking questions, you're still running workflows. It's tied into all your existing integrations. It's just on the website instead of pushing out an email. So obviously there's some things that are slightly different in the configuration, but it'll be very familiar to you as a concept of you still have campaigns, you still have questions, you still have workflows. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the background of how we got here. We think it'll be super useful for you guys, and we're also excited to see like get it in your hands and then see what are all the ideas that you guys have, what are all the different ways that you're using it. Because that's what happened with the email product. We had a few ideas of what would happen, like what those emails would look like, what are the core questions that people would ask. But over the last 4 years of that, we've gotten tons of new ideas from, hey, we never thought that someone would use it in this way. So I'm sure there's going to be tons of cool new use cases for the website too. We're all about giving you guys the tools to go out and experiment and show us the cool stuff that you do that we can then take back to groups like this and say, hey, here's a great idea for a new website campaign. So we've got a few core use cases. Can't wait to discover a bunch more with you guys. But yeah, with that, I'll hand it over to Ryan and he can show you how it all works and we can go from there.
Cool. Thanks, Cameron. Hey, everyone. Glad to be here. And so I'm going to dive in. So I head up our sales and marketing team just for perspective, in case I don't know anyone here. So um, here's how I'm going to kind of walk through this. So I'm going to start with from a high level. We have this kind of mock association website. And if anyone is on YM, you'll see it kind of eerily mirrors the YM content management system. I don't know why we did that, but nonetheless. So basically with this, what I have is I have a PropFuel account hooked into this association website. Now, and we'll talk about the mechanics of implementing this in a little bit, but I will just say this as a starting point. So getting PropFuel campaigns onto your website is a really pretty easy thing. We give you a few lines of code. We give you basically a snippet of JavaScript, and you take that and you plug that into your content management system at a global level. Then what we're doing with that is that knows to then call PropFuel when specific or any pages load on your website and talk to PropFuel where we're going to be basically saying, hey, if people meet these parameters or on this page, they're logged in, not logged in, cookied, not cooked in, cookied, all those sort of things, then display this interaction for them. And we could talk more about the mechanics of that. But basically with this, we have three what we call interaction types. So interactions are the way that the PropFuel campaign displays on the page. So this first one is a banner. So this sits statically at the bottom of this website. As I'm scrolling, the second one is a pop-up. So something like this. And we can place this anywhere. This can be placed center of the page, like center, vertically, horizontally, top, bottom, left, right, all that sort of stuff. And then we have inline content. And inline content is pretty cool because this actually will sit within the page like it's, a native, for lack of a better term, component of this page and not be something that is sitting kind of outside hovering on the page. So that's the background for like the mechanics of this. But basically within this, I have a few use cases teed up. So very common use case, and it's actually different than what we thought it was going to be when we first kind of ventured into this. When we first started talking about this, frankly, like we were talking about it in the context of, hey, everyone's logged into every association's website, and so let's just use that login and that authentication and do cool stuff with it. And we got like 3 calls into it, and basically the clients were like, yeah, no one logs into our website, and if they do, it's disconnected from the CMS, and like all these hurdles. And we're like, okay, let's reset a little bit here. So I think there's a different starting place for this, and this is what I want to kind of talk through. So naturally, this is a really good kind of starting point. So this is on the homepage of this site, is this simple condition here. And we're just saying if anyone comes to your homepage, ask them this question in the banner: are you a member? Now, the background for this is, as y'all know, if you have members who are on your website and they're not logged in, they're probably not getting all of the value that they could get. And so the realized value is pretty low. So if I say here, yes, what we're going to then do is we're going to tell them, hey, you're going to want to log in because you get access to all this cool stuff, industry reports and, interviews and, exclusive salary data and all whatever else it is by logging in. So then we're going to basically guide them down that journey. Now, if I'm not a member, what we're going to do if I answer no to this, one of our core capabilities, just like it is over email, is to branch to a follow-up question. So if I answer no to this, we're going to bring me to a different page, and then we're going to have that branched follow-up question, like, what's your primary goal for this year? Because again, someone's not a member, and again, going back to the core philosophy that you always talk about with your CSM, and we kind of, are so focused on is we don't want to just throw products at members. We don't want to just throw all the cool stuff that we have at members. We want to understand what are their needs, what matters to them, what are their challenges, and then put the right stuff in front of them at the right time. So now if I say, hey, I need to find a new job, what we're going to do is any combination of things, we can, in this same pop-up, use this. So if you're familiar with a landing page action in PropFuel, so when someone answers a question, you bring them to a PropFuel landing page, this is basically that same action. Because the cool thing about this is the actions are all the same exact actions that you're accustomed to using for email. So now we're just using them and deploying them in a different way. So basically, this is going to display content in this pop-up. Alternatively, what I could do is I could bring someone to a different page and have the pop-up be on that page. So I could kind of pair those together. I could just bring them to a different page. I could any combination of things that I want to be able to do here. But again, the key with this is now you don't have members and prospective members just stumbling their way through the website and then bouncing because they're not following or not finding the stuff that matters to them. We're actually kind of curating a journey for them. Similarly, you could just kind of start this off in a different place. You could start it off here like this. I come to this page and it's basically just getting right into it. Hey, what's your primary reason to coming to the site today? And the baseline for this is, again, people are not logged in. So we don't know who these people are. Could be members, could be non-members, but again, we want to curate this journey for them. And this question kind of does a decent job of teasing that out. If I say I want to become a member, obviously I'm not a member today. If I say I want to attend the annual conference, then we can kind of guide them towards that and do different things. Another use case here that I want to quickly highlight. So naturally, if you think about the lines of business for most associations, this no particular order necessarily, but the things that make money for you are probably some combination of membership dues, your annual conference, sponsorship, your learning and education program is probably one of those top 5 things generally. Learning, professional development, however you kind of couch it, education, et cetera. So what we kind of know is, any association, depending on how many products you have, you probably have some sort of catalog where all these are housed. And as a member, what I have to do to get to the stuff that matters to me is I have to do a pretty good amount of searching and filtering and just weeding through stuff. So the more that we can do to quickly get people to the right things, the better. So this is something that could easily lay over like a page on your LMS storefront if it's on a separate, LMS, or your storefront if it sits on your website. Either way, this would work perfectly. And basically here, what we're doing is we're trying to pare this down. We're trying to ask, hey, what matters to you from a training standpoint? So if I say on-demand resources, then in this case, what we would do is we would branch you to a filtered page with on-demand resources. Maybe on that page, we would even ask, hey, what topic matters to you the most right now? So then we can bring you down to a deeper branch of on-demand programs in the area of nonprofit fundraising. And so now we basically, with 2 clicks, we brought you somewhere so you're not having to search and filter and do all this sort of stuff that is typically just friction in the process. Another quick example. So, and I think this is a low-hanging fruit one, but I'm actually going to show you how flexible this is to adjust. So you can see this inline content here. This is the only thing on this page. What's cool about inline content and the way that the team has built it is it basically, like I kind of said, it sits on that page as just a, natural part of it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this from right now. Well, I'm going to change this to before. I'm going to actually save it this time. So now when I refresh this, what this is going to do is it's going to put that content element before the resources on the page versus replacing it. So you can actually do some really cool stuff with this. You could say like, I want the content on this page to be this block if someone is coming from here, or if they're this type of person, or all sorts of different scenarios, which we can get into. But what's cool about this is this use case specifically is we think this is a good low-hanging fruit opportunity, which is just simply getting satisfaction data about the different points of experience that a member has. And so, naturally one of those is the purchase process. And, the way that people typically get purchase process data is you have 5 people come up to you at the annual conference and they'll say, hey, you know what? Your order process sucks. It's terrible. It needs to be better. And you don't know, like, is that representative of the whole? Is that just 5 squeaky wheels? Or like, what exactly is that? So this is a really easy way if you have a static landing page or a static, confirmation page after any purchase. This is a great way to be able to every single time collect feedback from members. How was that experience? And you could even take it a step deeper. You could even say, naturally, like y'all know over email, you could say if someone says a 4 or 5, in this little area right here, have this branch immediately to a question that says, with language that says specifically, that's great. We're so glad to hear that. What's the best part of the process for you? Whereas if someone answers a 1 or 2, have that language be, hey, we're so sorry to hear that. What could be better about the process? And then basically use our insights to filter that data, get some key themes out of it, and then be able to use that from a macro level to improve that process. So a lot of the use cases that I've talked about so far are based around the premise of not knowing who people are. Anonymous, for lack of a better term, people who are engaging with you. There's also a whole kind of, area of use cases that are based around deeper targeting based upon knowing who people are. So a first step towards that is one way that we can naturally help with that is, because when you send a PropFuel email out, PropFuel knows who that person is that we're sending the email to naturally through our integration with your AMS. You can use PropFuel as kind of a bridge to cookie and establish who people are on your website. So picture a simple, question like this. Are you planning on attending an annual conference? Someone answers yes to this. Now, what y'all know is you would probably use an action to drop someone on a landing page based upon that yes. I mean, that's kind of like 80% of the time, that's what clients kind of do, and that's kind of around our best practice. And then you would put content on that landing page that says, great, click here to register, and some other little just guidance text there. What we can do instead of that is branch people immediately to your website. So one of the aspects of this is we have a new action for email campaigns that is a website interaction. And so basically that website interaction action is right here behind this yes answer. So this yes answer is taking me to a specific page on the association's website, and it's displaying a PropFuel pop-up here. And the thing that's happening is now, because we know it's this member, we're cookieing that member, but then we're basically identifying who that person is in that cookie. So next time they come back to your website, PropFuel is going to say, hey, we know who that person is, and we could start to use your AMS data. So part of this is we can set conditions based upon knowing who the person is. We can set conditions that say, based upon the fact that someone is either cookied or logged in or whatever the case may be, or based upon if they are cookied, then a specific content field. So let's say member type, and that's student. And let's say on top of that, we know that their expiration date is coming up in the next 30 days. Then ask them this very targeted question on that page. Hey, are you planning on renewing your membership? And we have the confidence to be able to do that because we know who that person is, because we've cookied them and we've basically completed that, or identified that person in that cookie. I don't know, Cam, if that's the right technical term. Please talk over me if it's not. I'm sure it's not actually, based upon your smirk. Basically then we're knowing who that person is. Another way that we can do all of that is we can tie into the single sign-on, the login and authentication process. So, naturally, if someone signs into your IMIS, then basically PropFuel can tie into that. And then based upon knowing who someone is, use all these different data points and these conditions to serve up very specific targeted experiences. And that can go as so far as like, you know, like I said, inline content here. You could say, if someone is a member, but they're a student member, serve up a question here. Hey, when are you planning on graduating? And that's all based around those conditions. So the way that we kind of think about it, and Ashley, if you want to add on to what I'm about to say, I'd love for you to. So the way that we kind of think about it is, with this, there's like a 3 to 6 month period of starting with kind of wide net use cases. And those wide net use cases are some of the ones that I've shown you here, while at the same time building up cookied users and figuring out who people are. Because then after, 6 months, which I'm just using that as kind of an arbitrary timeline, we can start to get into narrower use cases. Because one of the cool things about this is let's say someone comes to your website, they interact with the PropFuel campaign, and they answer 7 questions over a period of 3 months. And they're not logged in, not cookied, we don't know who they are. So they're just an anonymous person to us. But then let's say after 3 months, they engage in a PropFuel email, brings them to your website. We know who that person is going to the website. We're going to see that that person's cookie has all this is an anonymous person, but we're going to update it with real data that says, now, basically, this is the named person, and we're going to take all that anonymous engagement in PropFuel, and we're going to merge the anonymous user and that actual member. We're going to merge their records in PropFuel automatically and associate all what was anonymous engagement data with now real member data. So I say that kind of like building up period is also us doing that process, because that's just going to require more engagement with users, more interactions, and all of that. Ashley, anything you want to add on top of that?
No, I think that's perfectly said. So for those of you who don't know me, who I haven't met yet, I'm Ashley Witcher, the director of the Client Success Department, which includes your Client Success Manager. So Megan, go ahead and wave, Brett, and then Clara. And then we also have Bruna, who is our Client Success Coordinator. So definitely something to think about is as you sign on, we'll take you through the complete onboarding with website engagement the same way we do with email. We really want this to be something incorporated into your overall strategy, not thinking about it separate from email, but as part of the whole of PropFuel. So only thing to add.
Awesome. No, that's great. And just to show you just like an example of something like that. So see if I can just do this quickly on the fly. So it's never a good idea to do anything on the fly in a demo, but nonetheless, I'm going to break all the rules here and I'm going to do it. So see if I wired this up correctly. So just as an example, for that kind of lapsed member campaign, you might do something like this. So are you aware your membership has lapsed? Again, context here is someone is logged in, or we've cookied them, established that cookie connection with PropFuel to know who that person is that's cookied. And we're asking them when they come to the website, are you aware that your membership has lapsed? Just a little bit more mechanically about like some of the things that we're doing here and some of the things that, and Cameron, you might elaborate on what I'm about to say, but some of the things that we'll be also adding to this. So basically right now, like I said, we have the 3 interaction types. The cool thing about this is this all sits on the base of what you're already accustomed to. So basically this is just a different campaign type, but it's the base of what you're used to in terms of you're creating a question, you're creating answers, same UI for all of that, same UI for all the workflows and the actions, like nothing has changed there, same settings. Now we just have the areas of layout. So you can basically set up the layout of all your campaigns here. So I have like this really ugly layout where when you hover over it, it's an orange button. If I wanted to make that green, I could make it green or whatever. And then, the conditions. So things that we're going to be adding onto this, generally speaking, are right now, it's kind of set so that it shows basically if I come to this page, and then I come back later, it's set to only show 1 time per user. But we're going to be adding some features there. We're also going to be adding in exit intent. So things like, if I'm here and you'll see this, some other platforms have this, like if I'm going to roll my cursor over here to X out of this tab or this browser window, then it's going to pop something up because we'll recognize that's exit intent. And other things like that. Cam, anything that you would elaborate on top of some of that? And again, knowing some of that it's not like we're doing that tomorrow, but that's like, big picture kind of things for the product.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of questions about the cookieing and kind of authentication and what's possible there. So there's a couple different layers to it. So there's the cooking that PropFuel does. So this question hasn't been asked yet, but I'm sure someone is thinking it of how does this work with my cookie banner? So like during the implementation process, we can hook in, if you have a cookie banner, we can hook into where like we won't drop any cookies until you hit they've hit the I accept cookies button. So that's part of the implementation. But once we're there, then PropFuel will have its own cookie, but on your domain. So it's not a third-party cookie that's going to get blocked. We're not identifying people like across our client base. It's all specific to your site, which will help from a tracking and like kind of browser blocking of cookies standpoint. So you have a PropFuel session cookie on your site, and the way that we're establishing those links to people is if somebody comes from a PropFuel email to your site, now we know who they are because we've passed something in the URL to kind of tie that session cookie. So that's a reason why you'll want to tie this into your email strategy, because as people come from PropFuel emails to your site, then you'll build those links over time. The other thing we can do during the implementation process, and this one depends on your CMS and AMS and how everything is tied together, but we can tie into the single sign-on process for your website. So if they are logged into your website, then again, we would establish that link with that cookie, and the specific ways how to do that are going to vary, by your specific setup. But that's something we'll walk through in the implementation process. See if your website is integrated with your AMS and people log into it. If so, how do we tie into it? And we'll establish that way.
Awesome. Yeah, just an example of this. So Cam said, like, this is an example of a client who has this running right now. Nakubo is one of our clients that is using this. And so this is coordinated with their cookie banner. So I have to accept cookies. And then the way that it works is naturally, like, you have to either refresh the site or when you come back to it, then PropFuel is going to tie in. And they may have actually, I wonder, it may not be on their homepage, or they may have taken it down actually. So maybe that is no longer the way that this works. So I'm just gonna scrap that altogether. Cam, maybe that came down? I don't know. All right. So other things that I think are worth talking through. Ashley, want to talk through some of the results with clients? I can serve up like some of the or I'll let you actually. You don't need me. You want to talk through some of those client results?
Sure, yeah. And if you already have them queued up and want to show, that's totally fine. But I just want to kind of talk through what they did, what we saw. So two really great ones. I'm going to start with Trout Unlimited, which I don't think anyone from Trout Unlimited is on the call. If you are, please interrupt me. You're way better to talk about this than I am. But if not, so they're a nonprofit dedicated to the conservation of freshwater habitats. So, definitely as a nonprofit, one of their big things is a year-end giving campaign. They do it every single year. It's one of their biggest and most impactful efforts. And this year, they decided to elevate it with PropFuel emails and website engagement. So on their website, what Ryan's showing here is they added a PropFuel pop-up asking users to donate. So very simple question, just like you would do an email. Are you interested in giving this year? Yes, tell me more. No, not this year, and I've already donated. Things are happening so quickly at the end of the year with them, so we really wanted to put that I've already donated in there so people could opt out of it. The yes, tell me more directed them right to a donation page where there's more information and they can choose their donation amount. Not this year still reminds them of the ways they can financially or give non-financially, so ways to give their time. And then I've already donated just gives them a thank you. So one thing to note here before we go through the results is this was part of a much larger A/B test between PropFuel website engagement and another pop-up. So the PropFuel pop-up only displayed after users had previously clicked out of that other pop-up and then come back to the website. So in other words, PropFuel was secondary on their website. So I think when you know that and then you hear these results still really successful. Ryan, do you want to go through the results that they had, or would you like me to do that?
If you have them in front of you, you can, and
Yeah.
I can add any context to them any additional context that would be valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So this pop-up ran between December 18th and the 31st. It was shown 678 times and it got a 9.4% response rate. So pretty good in terms of response rates. Out of those, 48% of the people, so 30 people selected yes, tell me more, and then were redirected to the donation page with more information. So keeping in mind that that 678, that 9.4% response rate are people, again, who clicked out of the pop-up the first time they saw it and then took action with a PropFuel pop-up.
Yeah, and comparatively, because we debriefed with them on this, because comparatively, like exactly like Ashley said, we kind of played second fiddle on this in that they had this light box pop up that was like a big, huge pop up on the page that basically like controlled the page almost like you had to do something with it. So comparatively, for the times that was served up, if I remember correctly, they had a 4.2% response rate to that. For the number of times that it was served up compared to the 9.4% response rate that we had, even though our thing was served up after that, and it would have to be to the people that saw that light box and did or didn't engage with it. So that is kind of interesting. So now they're actually going to put PropFuel in front of that for a series of use cases because it performed at about 2.5 times the conversion rate.
Yeah.
And for perspective, if you're not accustomed to this, which probably most people are not, the way that pop-ups and this sort of thing are measured is typically the term is response rate, and the general average, like across all industries, kind of is about 3.5 to 4% is the general kind of average response rate. So seeing 9.4 on this was pretty great. Ashley, we want to talk through PA Med?
Yeah. So while I like all of the campaigns that I see, this one really piqued my interest because I think it's such a good example of how important it is to meet your members where they are and at a time talking about the things that they care about. And really not just members, but all of your contacts. So this one is the Pennsylvania Medical Society end of year acquisition campaign. And Pennsylvania physicians are required to complete CME requirements by the end of the year. So PA Med, in a very smart strategic decision, decided to focus their campaign on highlighting that members can take free CME courses. So the question, really simple, would you like to take advantage of free CME and join today for as little as $95? I mean, like, what better, if you're on the website, most likely you need your CME. So this one was shown 1,464 times, again, with a 6% response rate. And then of those who answered, 60% actually said, I'm already a member, take me to the login page. Kind of cool. So you kind of get to like kind of be a concierge for them, point them right to where they need to be. And then 12% of them said, actually, I'd like to join now. And then we redirected them to the benefits page where they could join. So again, like I said, just a really good mix of meeting them where they are at the time where they're going to need something.
Awesome. I know one other example, the one that I was showing earlier, but I couldn't get myself to, was Nakubo. And Cam, you remember this better than me, but if I remember correctly, the thing that they told us was in using PropFuel around award submissions is that they had done award submissions a couple of years ago, and I forget exactly how they were trying to get people to do it, but I think they had, Cam, was it 3 submissions?
Yeah, it was
Something like that?
I think 1 or 2 per award that they gave out.
Award. Okay. So they've already had they have this on their website right now to drive people to award submissions. They already have 24 submissions of it through the PropFuel pop-up on the site. So that's pretty cool. I don't know what the percentages of that are, but basically they've like exceeded it tenfold. So kind of interesting in that use case.
Hey, Ryan, it is working for me on their website. I'm happy to share my screen if you want me to show it to
Let's
the
do it. Let's
team.
do it. You know,
All right.
I probably looked at it too many times is what happened. And they were
It's
like,
like,
yep, no,
yeah, it's like, Ryan, please get off our website right now.
exactly.
But here's what it looks like. Would you like to nominate someone for an award? And then when they click an option, it takes them over. And then we have another follow-up pop up here. Continuing the conversation. Thanks for your interest. And then giving them some more information about it. So that's that functionality there.
Yeah. Cool. Megan, thank you. Good team effort. I actually don't that was perfect timing because I don't have anything else unless and right into the chat if you want to see anything more from like an admin standpoint. I didn't really want to take much time stumbling around the admin. It's really straightforward. I mean, I guess I kind of showed you high level. But happy to drill into that a little bit more if anyone wants to see it, or if we think there's any other specific use cases that are worth talking through. Happy to do it. But that kind of that finishes up the primary stuff that I wanted to get through at least. And the timing is good for that because I'm losing my voice, obviously. Ashley, anything else you want to cover off?
No, I think that's it. I mean, Dave definitely put a good question in the chat. Given what you've seen, how do you see yourself using this to draw your members in more? I know, our clients love to hear from other clients. So, feel free to unmute or put in the chat if this is kind of, creating some ideas for you.
I actually see a couple of really good questions that I'll drill into. So, Susan, thank you. So, how do you see this using this new product along with the PF campaigns, the email campaigns? So, I think there's a few things. So, one, using the email campaigns as kind of Cam was saying, as the connection point to identify people that are going from a PropFuel email to your website. Because once we have that established connection and that cookie with that identified information, then we can do a lot more to do segmentation and targeting on the website because we're going to know who those people are. But that's just one way. I think on top of that, once we have more identified people interacting on the website, then you can start to do things where you say like, hey, if someone answers a question this way, then what we want to do is we want to add them to a PropFuel email campaign, or we want to tag them so we can add them to a list, or we want to, I mean, shoot, you could even send them a follow-up email out of PropFuel based upon knowing who they are and them interacting in a certain way on the website. So like that, there's really cool stuff you could do because the idea with all of this is we want to tie these touch points together. We don't want just like ancillary, disconnected touch points. We want to try to get to a place where we can have these really connected touch points where it's like we're orchestrating this, someone is doing something on the website or email, and that's tying through and orchestrating other things happening through other channels.
Yeah, and to just add on to that, Ryan, a great example would be if you have an onboarding campaign in PropFuel and somebody says they're hoping to earn a certification. When they then navigate to your website, you can like, hey, I know, or that's kind of creepy, but like, are you interested in learning about how to earn free CE to help earn your certification? Because we know they were in this campaign, they answered this way, and then now they're cookied on your website. So there's lots of different ways to make that full circle connection and enhance their member engagement.
Love that. You're absolutely right. Matthew, really good thoughts. So he said we could use this with conference registration, targeting non-members with a join and save. It will convert attendees who are non-members to become a member of. I mean, awesome. Here's a
Ryan,
question.
real quick, before you go on to the next question, I'm seeing a handful of people say they want the recording, which I'm pretty sure we send out the recordings to the roundtables to all our clients.
Yep.
But I'd suggest if this is intriguing to you, why don't you bring your team into a conversation with Ryan? Make it a more interactive experience where Ryan can show you the platform and he'd also be able to talk about pricing with you at that point, I suspect. But that way, I think it would be a little more interactive. Of course, if you don't want to do that yet, you just want to send them a recording, you're more than well. I smirk because like the thought of me sitting down and watching a 45-minute recording would drive me bonkers. But you're welcome to do that. I'd rather pick Ryan's brain in a Zoom call. But the link to do that, if you do want to book a time to talk to Ryan, you can do that using the link in the chat.
Thanks, Dave. You can pick my brain in a Zoom call anytime you want.
I never liked that phrase. I don't know why I said it. It's just weird. I don't want to pick anybody's brain. Go ahead, Ryan. Is there another question? I think
There's
is.
two more. Yeah, there's two
Quickly,
more.
get me to stop talking, please. Or dad jokes coming out.
I know. I got two more I'm going to cover off, and one I'm not going to cover off because I'm not touching it, and it's all Cam's, and he knows which one it is. What CMS systems do you work with? What AMS? How long would it take to get this set up and going? Wendy, great question. So we work. It works with any content management system. It's basically to set up. We give you 3 lines of JavaScript, which is code, and I don't mean that to be belittling when I say it that way. I mean, if you don't know what JavaScript is, like that means you're normal. 3 lines of JavaScript, and you basically take that, and then someone technical on your team or someone who administers your content management system for your website is going to plug that in globally into your CMS, and they'll know exactly where to put it because they have other JavaScript plugins that are running on your website. It's pretty standard stuff, very standard. And then from an AMS standpoint, we can run this with any AMS too. The data side of it lives in your existing integration, and then we work differently with each AMS when we want to tie it into login and authentication. But setup of it is basically like a 15 to 30-minute process, and then all the campaign creation and all of that is what then basically gets PropFuel running on the site. So it's a very simple process. All right, Cam. How does PropFuel handle engagement tracking when tools like ad blockers or VPNs are in use? What's the plan for tracking in the future when cookies are no longer viable? I
Yep.
feel like we should be sitting on a
So
couch for this question.
the cookie piece of it, what Google has been proposing for, I believe, 3 years now, and they still haven't actually done it. So we'll see if it ever happens, is killing third-party cookies. There's 2 different types of cookies. So there's first-party cookies and third-party cookies. Third-party cookies are, say, Facebook.com drops a cookie on every website in the world because everybody uses Facebook ads. And if you go to site A that has a Facebook.com cookie and site B and site C that also have Facebook.com cookies, then Facebook knows who you are across those sites. So that's what a third-party cookie is. It's called third-party because it's not tied to that one website. It's tied to a third-party website. That's what Google's been threatening to kill. It turns out that Google makes a lot of money from advertising, so they haven't actually killed third-party cookies. But I do think at some point, like those will dwindle in effectiveness. The second type of cookie is a first-party cookie, and that's a cookie that only belongs to your website. So, if you're association ABC and you're at abc.com, the cookie only lives on abc.com. If you go to some other one of our clients, we don't track across those 2 sites. So that's what we're setting. And we're doing that specifically because those are the same types of cookies that handle logins and, basic website functionalities. Those aren't going anywhere. So we're not doing third-party tracking so that we can make sure that that's a sustainable thing, regardless of what happens to third-party cookies. There are scenarios where things like ad blockers delete cookies, and or if somebody just in their browser goes and once a week they clear out all their cookies out or whatever. In that case, we would lose that tracking link. And that's why ultimately the most effective way to make sure that we know who people are is going to be tying into the sign-in section of the single sign-on of the website. So basically the way we have it organized in PropFuel is there's 3 levels of do we know who this person is. So there's anonymous, we definitely don't know who they are. There's known, which means we know who they are because we have a cookie, but they're not necessarily logged in. So that link is not airtight. And then there's authenticated, which means they're logged into the website. Our secure key got passed over and says, yes, this is definitely who they are. And you can target based on those 3 levels. So there's some things where you probably wouldn't want to do it unless they're logged in and you know exactly who they are. Things such as updating profile fields. That requires a little bit more of a secure environment. But there's other things where maybe a renewal campaign where it's good enough to know we're pretty sure this is who this is because we dropped a cookie, and you can target that way, or obviously you can just target to anybody and everybody who goes to that page, and all the actions work on that as well. So if you had a send email follow-up action, that's not going to cause any problems if somebody anonymously answers that question. We just won't send an email because we don't know who to send it to. But if somebody is logged in, then we know who they are and we can send it to them. So that's kind of how we think about the authentication. I think ultimately setting up the ability for you to pass to us, like, here's who this person is because they're logged in through your existing system is going to be the one that is the most reliable. And then anything outside of that, we're kind of doing our best effort to identify those people.
Awesome. Thanks, Cam. Just looking to see, and has anyone else see any other questions that would be good to tap into? I'm just taking a look to see if I've missed anything. A lot of talk about my brain, which is awkward.
You know, Ryan, I was gonna type this into the chat, but I figure this is probably a good time to ask if you know how you wash clothes at a beach. Tide. Tide'll clean it up. I see you laughing, Kenny. Hannah likes it. All right, thank you.
There is another question from Matthew here. If we already have PropFuel set up with our AMS, will it just work, or is there more setup? So if you already have a PropFuel integration with your AMS, you don't need to do anything else from a like data flow in the background state. So that's how we know who people are in general. But you will still need to install the snippet on your website to give us the access to actually push data up on your site, as well as hook up the SSO. So we leverage the existing integrations for the data flow and getting all the fields for everybody. That's all the same thing. But yeah, there is additional setup to get the actual website plumbed in.
Cool. I think that might cover everything. Tina, that's a really good question. Cam, I'll let you, I could stumble my way through this, but you'll be better answering this. Are there any data privacy or personal identifiable information concerns to consider?
Yeah. So that's for you and your legal counsel is our ultimate official answer there. But this is why we tie into your GDPR strategy and your cookie banner and all of that stuff is ultimately you need consent from your members for you to use their information in this way. We're not collecting any new PII or moving PII around and outside of what we're already doing. So we definitely fit into your flow there of, yes, I'm okay with you tracking. And if they say no, from a cookie banner standpoint, then we're not going to drop cookies at all. That's obviously going to limit the functionality that you can do in terms of targeting people, but you could still target, based on pages and activity and stuff like that. We're just not dealing with PII at all in that case.
One other quick thing. Oh, Dave, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say you're more than welcome to reach out to Ashley or Meg or Brett or Clara to get connected with Ryan or to talk a little bit more about this as well if you miss the opportunity to book a time with Ryan.
One other thing or two other quick things. So like this opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of like if you want to tie this into other extensions of your main website. So if you think about your LMS, your community, your career center, your annual conference site, like all of those are fair game for this. Like all of those are things that can be places that you can leverage this. Thank you, Wendy. PropFuel is still her favorite tool. That's really cool. And then the second thing is this just opens up other general things like, for example, we have an integration with BettyBot. So if anyone knows BettyBot, you could use this to say like someone comes to a specific page and you could ask them like, how can we help you today? Or like, I don't know, some good question. And you can use the answer to that to feed it in as a prompt into BettyBot to drop them into BettyBot and then start to work on getting them a generative answer. So like there's some really, really cool stuff that this unlocks. All right.
Yeah, if you're using BettyBot, I was just going to type this in. I'm going to say it out loud though. If you're using BettyBot, reach out to your CSM about our integration. There's some really cool stuff you can do to get to drive more activity in BettyBot. That's the whole point of the integration between PropFuel and Betty, is to ask a question in email and send it over to Betty with a prompt already written out.
Yeah.
All right. Is that a wrap on our side? If there's no other questions, thank you guys so much. I really love these meetings. I love seeing all your faces here and hearing your questions. Usually they're a little more interactive with you guys. Today we had something to share with you. So thank you for coming. Have a great afternoon and we'll see you next time.